Round 1. Fight!
What's good, everybody? Today I want to talk to you guys about changes that I want to see in Tekken 8. A lot of people have been making Season 2 wish lists. A lot of pros, semi-pros, content creators have all been discussing Tekken 8 and what they don't like about the gameplay. Arsene Ash made a tweet not too long ago asking for more defensive options. And while I'm just a Fujin player, after taking all of this in, I feel like my opinion on this subject has more or less been validated by all these stronger players. The first thing that usually comes up when discussing Tekken 8's gameplay is the heat system. Everyone is unhappy with heat, and I get it, like I understand why. It's powerful, number one, but it's also in your face, flashy. A lot of characters' win conditions are tied to heat, but I don't think heat is the biggest problem in this game, and I also don't think we should be spending so much time talking about it. I'm more worried about Tekken 8's core gameplay, so today I'm going to talk about backdashing and tracking. It's no secret that the goal with Tekken 8 was to make the game more aggressive and have more of a focus on offensive gameplay, but I think nerfing backdashing was overdoing it. If you take a look at all the changes made going into Tekken 8, we have stance pressure, heat pressure, forced 50-50s, low parry nerf, which was a universal buff to all lows. Most counter hit launchers were removed so players feel more comfortable pressing into their opponent. On top of all that, there was a nerf to backdashing. Why? I'm actually on board with most of this. Stance pressure, okay. Heat pressure, okay. Forced 50-50s, fine. Low parry nerf, fine. Removing most counter hit launchers, okay. Why? Why on top of all this would you nerf backdashing? I can see why the devs might have felt like Tekken 7 was a bit too turtley with everyone fishing for counter hits and low parries, but the backdash nerf just feels like an overcorrection. The issue right now, in my opinion, is not necessarily that heat pressure and forced 50-50s are too powerful, it's that they are unavoidable. It feels like you can't get away from anything in this game. For sure, I don't have a good Korean backdash 100%. For me, it's a skill issue. But if Arsene Ash is saying that the game lacks defensive options, then I think that says something. Personally, I don't mind the game having a lot of cheese. They can put whatever they want in this game. Stance pressure, heat pressure, put it all in. But I want to be able to defend against it with strong movement. Right now, it feels like it's just way too easy to steamroll people with offense. The other point I want to make about backdashing, aside from how it affects the meta, is that having a good backdash improves the feel of the game. Harada talks about how older 3D fighters don't age well, and I kind of get what he's saying. The fact that running is so easy in Tekken 8 makes the game feel so much smoother. Going back to try Tekken 7 felt so weird, I couldn't get a single instant while running move. Backdashing is one of those things that won't age well in Tekken 8 if it's not addressed. People like their games to feel smooth, responsive, they want to feel like their character is doing what they want them to do. Tekken 8 unfortunately feels heavy, it feels like you're stuck in knee-high mud all the time. Brian is a kickboxer, I expect him to fly around the stage. He did this in Tekken 7, no problem. But in Tekken 8, it's as if he had too many cheeseburgers and now he can barely move. It feels wrong, it's like playing CS on an Xbox, it's awful. This is another thing. Defensive characters should never have bad movement in a 3D fighter. Movement is your first line of defense. Lee and Brian having below average movement makes no sense to me. But anyway, I want to see a universal backdash buff for all characters to bring backdashing back to where it was in Tekken 7. Attacks having too much tracking is also a big issue in my opinion. No doubt sidestepping covers more ground compared to Tekken 7, but this is where things get weird. They buffed sidestepping, which is amazing, it was a much needed buff, but moves also track more now. So what's the point? They don't fully cancel each other out, but it still feels a bit redundant. It's like, imagine I'm making a shooter and I add a bunch of recoil to make the weapons a little bit harder to aim with, but then I add a bunch of bullet magnetism and rotational aim assist on top of that. Like, what's the point? Just tone down the recoil and get rid of the aim assist. I'm not too worried about the tracking in this game because I feel like they've done this on purpose and that they will tone it down soon. We saw this happen in Soul Calibur 6 Season 2, they nerfed tracking on all vertical attacks across the board. I feel like they could be doing a similar thing here. Season 1 they don't want all the new players getting stepped all day, so they made it less effective. But once the game's been out for a while, they'll start to cater the game more to competitive players. Hopefully, at least. But I still think it's important to get the word out that tracking is an issue in this game. I'd like to see a universal nerf to tracking on all moves that aren't homing, of course. Maybe with the exception of some lows. Personally, I just can't stand the unofficial homing moves in this game. What I'm most worried about is that everyone will continue talking about heat, And the developers, instead of fixing what's wrong with this game at its core, will nerf Heat and move on, thinking they solved the problem. But that's not going to fix Tekken 8's gameplay. If we turn off Heat, does Tekken 8 suddenly become amazing? Is it now better than Tekken 7, Tag 2, Tekken 6, Tekken 5? What I'm afraid of is that they'll nerf Heat and just leave it. Then we'll be left with a boring version of Tekken 8, where Heat, the one thing that was new and exciting, is now less fun to use, and the core gameplay still suffers. I'm not saying don't nerf Heat, not at all, it needs changes for sure. But let's get the core gameplay fixed, then adjust accordingly. I don't want to change the developer's vision for Tekken 8, I'm down with the game being more offensive, but with the way things are now, there is plenty of room for defensive buffs that will not change Tekken 8's identity, and only make the game feel less one-sided. The beauty of buffing backdashing and nerfing tracking is that it makes the changes that need to be made to Heat and the roster much smaller, because suddenly, Heat and the top tier characters feel less volatile. From my perspective, it feels like Heat is just the icing on the cake, but everyone is so obsessed with this icing, all they talk about is the icing. I'm over here thinking, guys, the cake tastes awful, let's figure out the ingredients, then we can discuss what kind of icing we want to use. I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to comment down below how you're feeling about Tekken 8's gameplay. If you agree with what I'm saying here, let everyone know on Twitter, Reddit, wherever you guys like to post stuff. Tell your favorite streamers, content creators, just holla at your people, let everyone know we want backdashing buffed and tracking nerfed in Tekken 8. Thanks for watching and have a great day.